We are recording. All right, so welcome everyone to our 11th and final Global Cougs speaker series of the fall 2020 semester. The Global Cougs speaker series gives individuals from WSU and around the world a platform in order to share their thought-provoking stories, experiences, and also projects that are global in nature. The speaker series talks are for everyone in the WSU community. However, if you're a student, you can also attend the speaker series talks like this one today as one of your 3 elective experiences required for each of the Global Cougs digital badges. Today, Darlington Akogo's presentation will explore themes related to knowledge application. It will also be recorded and shared on our Digital Badge Connect database, where you can find other elective experience opportunities like this one. So if you'd like to have ask any questions about the program, you can always visit us at our weekly info sessions every Tuesday at 4:30 Pacific time. However, keep in mind that we are not going to have any more for the rest of this semester. So they'll start up again in the beginning of January in the spring semester. So without further ado, let me hand over the reins to Darlin Akogo, founder of Cara Agro AI and Mino Health, and among lots of other projects I know he has going on behind the scenes at the moment. So yeah, his talk will be roughly 30-40 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So Darlington, take it away.
Thank you for having me, Jake. Thank you for having me, Washington State University. So yes, I will be speaking about, if you can see my screen. So yeah, I will be speaking about application of AI in African healthcare as well as agriculture. Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, so a bit about myself. I'm the founder and executive director of Mino Health AI Labs, Cara Agro, as well as Ranmila. I also work as the topic group lead for AI in radiology. So there's a work by ITU and then World Health Organization. I also worked with WACBIB, taught as a lecturer in AI. So generally I work as far as developing AI solutions, engaging in AI research, but also the policy and regulatory side of AI too as well. So yes, we started Gudra some years ago with the goal of solving what we consider to be the toughest challenges, global challenges, especially in the context of Africa. So being able to solve them with technology, especially this kind of advanced technologies like AI. And out of that, we created Mino Health AI Labs, Cara Agro, and Ranmila. So with healthcare, for example, there are a number of tough challenges when it comes to African healthcare. Over half of those came from communicable diseases like malaria, lower respiratory tract infections. Then a little over 30% also came from non-communicable diseases like stroke. Now, being able to do something about this unfortunate deaths and then people having their health destroyed requires diagnostics. So being able to then quickly identify that people are suffering from some condition is very important. Now, as well, radiology is a component of diagnostics that focuses on medical imaging. So being able to image patients and then using those images to diagnose them is a key component of healthcare. So literally about 50 to 70% of clinical decisions depend on some form of diagnostics, usually of the laboratory kind. However, the challenges with diagnostics, at least 2 of them are, 1, misdiagnostics. So with misdiagnostics, basically what is happening is that someone actually had some condition, but you never detected it. You didn't realize that they had that condition. So some study found out that as far as the data, only 1% of South Africans were documented as having sickle cell anemia. But then in actuality, the numbers are 300% more than what they thought. So this is one of the key issues, not being able to even identify that people have challenges or they have health conditions. The second one is misdiagnosis. So with misdiagnosis, the person actually has one condition, but you end up wrongly concluding that it's another condition. So there was a study several years ago that found out that of 40% of children that were clinically diagnosed of malaria somewhere in Kumasi, they actually did not have malaria. What they had was bacterial sepsis. So this is also another major issue. And then broadly, the structure and resources that exist in healthcare, especially African healthcare, is quite limited. So in Ghana, for example, you have about 11,000 patients to one doctor ratio. Malawi having this even worse, so 60,000 patients to one doctor ratio. Then if you zoom into radiology, in South Africa, which has some of the best healthcare that you might find in Africa, there's right about just one radiologist for every 100,000 people. But then in Ghana, for example, there's one radiologist for every 800,000 people. So literally we have less than 40 radiologists in Ghana. So this clearly shows that there's big issues in African healthcare. So what is our response to this? We saw the opportunity where artificial intelligence could be useful in addressing these challenges. So that's what led us to creating Mino Health. So we combine AI, data science, cloud computing, a number of technologies to then address this problem. So what do we do with Mino Health? We are developing AI solutions for disease diagnostics, forecast, and prognostics. And so far, we've applied it broadly to everything from you have chest conditions like pneumonia, fibrosis, hernia, and then cancers like breast cancer. But then also beyond that, we've been using AI to we apply AI to domains like biotech, neuroscience, optometry, oncology, epidemiology, nutrition, and dietetics. So one of the research that we've been engaged in was with West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens. So this is WACBIP. What we did was that we used AI to be able to better understand immunity towards malaria. So this is still a very much unsolved problem where we don't fully understand why some people easily get malaria after being bitten a few times. And then other people don't get it entirely. We know exposure helps, but then even right in Ghana, for example, people in Kintampo have higher immunity towards malaria than people in Accra, which is the capital city of Ghana. So what we did was that there was this whole biological data across a number of factors, including just the immune system, cytokines, and antibodies. So what we did was that we fed all that data to an AI system we created, and the AI system was supposed to look for patterns that clearly shows that those in Kintampo. So we use data was collected mainly from children that had malaria, and we were able to identify some key factors that separated, or some key biological pointers that separated people with high immunity to people with lower immunity. The potential impact of this work is that this could then better help us in developing vaccines at some point towards actually ensuring that a lot more people have immunity towards malaria. Apart from that, we are recently involved in a work with Imperial College London, which is funded by UKRI. So with this work, it's divided in 2 stages. We are just right about completing the stage 1. The stage 1, the focus is molecular diagnostics for Africa. So if you look at COVID-19, for example, you are using a technology called PCR. That's the gold standard for testing for COVID-19. So you have basically technologies that are trying to take like the PCR and make them small. So handheld versions of it. These are kind of handheld molecular diagnostic system. So Imperial College has one of this called Lacewing. And then for this particular project and grant, we are working with them broadly, looking at the potential of this technology in Africa, but also how AI can be used with this technology. So with all the data that is being generated from testing, especially towards infectious diseases like malaria, but then also COVID-19, how can AI be used for a number of stuff like prediction and then forecasting the spread of conditions? So this is also one of the projects that we've been working on. So we've had our research papers featured in a number of places. We've presented as one of NeurIPS, so one of the workshop of NeurIPS. NeurIPS is basically one of the largest, if not the largest AI gathering in the world. We've had our work, so we had work that we did on cancer cells. We use AI to better understand the differences in cancer cells, even across species, so human mice, but also understanding breast cancer cells from the healthy cells. So we've been doing a lot of work also on this. As I mentioned earlier, we work with the ITU and World Health Organization as well. So we've been busy developing standards and regulations that can then be used to guide the space of AI in healthcare, especially AI in radiology. So there's a lot of solutions being developed, but we need to do them in a responsible way. So we have the opportunity of working on these standards to better guide the space. So to do this, we have a number of partners that we work with in Ghana and then across the world. And this has been really good. Yeah. So in general, what we are doing with AI is that we, like I mentioned earlier, we use AI for diagnostic, forecast, and prognostics. If some of the conditions that I mentioned, so we use it for breast cancer, diabetes, and the rest. And our focus is mainly radiology, because with radiology, you have medical images that are generated, and then you can feed these medical images to an AI system to then try to diagnose the disease that is present. So this kind of shows what some of our systems look like. So yeah, to quickly then switch to agriculture. In agriculture, just very much similar to healthcare, there are a number of issues, especially when it comes to food security. So take, for example, about over 250 people in sub-Saharan Africa were recorded as undernourished. This is the very recent stats. So that basically translates to 1 in every 4 persons in Africa being undernourished. And this is the worst of such numbers globally. And I think everyone is quite familiar with this. Some might even argue this is overly being used as a representation of Africa, even though Africa is more than that. But without a doubt, it's a major problem. And whilst this is also going on, you realize that about 1/3 of food is lost somewhere during production. Literally about 40% of crops are lost in Africa, especially right on the field before they even reach the point of harvest. So about 40% of yield is lost when it comes to African farmers. And majority of that has to do with diseases and pests. So in Ghana specifically, 30% of crop yield is lost to diseases and pests. So with all these challenges, at the same time, Sub-Saharan Africa is expected to increase its food production by 60% in the next 15 years to meet the growing population. So we already have people that are undernourished today. Our population is growing rapidly. So not only do we have to increase food production to meet today's numbers, we have to be increasing it towards a growing population, which is quite a huge demand. So from our perspective, to achieve this, we would need to relook at agriculture. So something along the lines of agriculture 2.0. So for us, what this means is agriculture that is data-driven and has a lot of AI power to it. So in a very abstract way, what this means is that generally on the field, we want to be able to collect data, as much data from the farm as possible, have AI systems go through this data and try to identify or detect problems, and then have AI system recommend solutions to this problem. And the reason being that a lot of issues that have to do with loss in crop yield has to do with on-farm inefficiency. So if you can collect a lot of data, then you'll be able to quickly detect diseases and pests, and then you'll be able to quickly respond to them. So that 30% to 50% can then be addressed with some of these solutions. So that's been how one of the ways we've been using AI in agriculture. So what does this look like realistically? So realistically, we have two platforms. We have the Akogo AI disease and pest detection app, where simply farmers can take photos of plant leaf, and then if there's any disease present, the AI system will detect it and then recommend a solution or how to then treat that problem. But we also have the Akogo AI drone platform. So this one is for use cases where you want to look at problems that go beyond the coverage of a mobile phone. So even if you have something as small as 5 acres, you can literally go through the whole farm and capture all details with a mobile phone. So even for small scale farmers, this becomes a challenge. So a drone allows you to easily fly across the board, collect that data, and then have an AI system identify problems and then recommend solutions. So this is what the app, the disease detection app, looks like in practice. So we've been working with a number of partners in Ghana to improve this, to add in more diseases as well. And then this is what the drone platform looks like. So with the drone platform, there are a number of stuff that you can do. If you see the map that has the red, gold, green, those are usually called vegetation index maps. So we are able to capture field images of field, stitch them together and generate this vegetation index maps. And what they do basically is that they are looking for healthy vegetation. So the green usually is healthy vegetation. Yellow, depending on how close to green it is also somewhat healthy. Red is usually on either it's purely soil, depending on how we segment this, or it can be crops that are under stress. So this maps actually allows you to be able to detect places in the field that have issues and address them accordingly. So it could help you identify places that have pests and diseases, or they have irrigational problems. Also, if you see one map, let me see if it shows up. Yes, the one with the blue, green, and red. So those are elevation maps that we can generate. We can use it to basically be able to tell which crops or which plots are growing properly and which ones are not growing properly. So we can look at the technical term is also stand assessment or vegetation cover assessment. So what that simply means is that if you're working on a field, it's hard to truly tell that the first few crops that I saw are shorter than the one that I am now seeing, and then the one ahead is way shorter. It's hard to capture this even for crops that are short. But then once you look at maize, which is one of the widely grown crops in Africa, it becomes a bigger challenge to do this. So by just having that aerial view from a drone and then being able to calculate the relative height and differences of plots, you can clearly see which part of your field is not doing well. So you can see that, okay, for some reason, there's a lot of growth challenges to this plot, and then you go and address them accordingly. So yeah, these are some of the things that we are also doing. The potential impact of this work is that with the right setup, the right sensors, we can actually be able to detect diseases, pests, water shortages 10 days before they even become visible to the human eye. So one of the key sensors that allows for this is near-infrared sensor. And the reason being that whatever challenges or whatever problem emerges in crop, it starts usually on a cellular level, and it affects how they then engage in their photosynthesis. So when they take rays from the sun, how they are able to then capture those rays and then refract them back. If you're able to measure those, you can be able to identify problems even before diseases start emerging on the crop leaves or even the yields themselves, say fruits and vegetables. So this is one of the powerful things behind this technology. Using the right setup, you can save up to 90% of water during irrigation. Because if you look at those maps, we can identify places that might have or require more water. We can identify places that don't need water. And so this is called precision agriculture. So you can be more precise in your application of water even on the field. You can identify that this crop needs just this amount of water and this part needs less water. And so in areas that are already feeling the effect of climate change and they're experiencing droughts and the rest, this is a very important technology that would help in reducing how much water they need to grow their crops. And also just by using drones to do spraying, special application of pesticides, you can achieve 40 to 60 times faster speed and efficiency compared to the manual process. And then you can save up to 30% of pesticides. You use less pesticides because you identify only the places on your field that need pesticides because they have disease and pests, and so you don't waste them, which actually also reduces the amount of effect it has on the environment. And also farmers can save up to 55% in labor costs. If you are going to have extension officers or have go through your farm looking for issues, the more, even, so we have a growing number of mid-scale farms in Africa. The more larger your field gets, or the larger your field gets, the more difficult it becomes to have people manually go through the field to identify problems. So using drones become an easier way of doing this. And also generally, so if you can put this all together, you realize that this is actually going to make agriculture more climate change resilient. So this falls under what is called climate smart agriculture. And it reduces the amount of emissions because generally if you are helping to improve agriculture, and also this is applicable to agroforestry. So we've done work that we flew these drones in some forests to be able to map stuff. So ensuring the right vegetation even in forests helps in combating climate change. So practically, some of the things we've already done is that we are just at the end of a 4-month project that we did with one of the leading plant breeding institutions in Africa, in Ghana and then Africa. So that is SARI, Savannah Agricultural Research Institute. So what we did was that this thing is called a high throughput phenotyping. It's the same technology that I explained, but what we are working on mainly is, so not even at the point where the farmers are growing the crops yet, we are working towards the development of seeds. And specifically, we were focused on groundnuts. So we had about 1,000 varieties of groundnuts, and we wanted to develop groundnuts that were had higher resilience towards disease and pests, and then they had higher yields. And so the benefit of this would be if a farmer, be it a small scale farmer or large scale farmer, buys this seed, even when they are disease and pests and they don't have the right mechanism in place, the seed itself has internal structure that allows it to be have higher resistance towards this disease and pest. So it wouldn't be damaged as much by disease and pest. And then it will help them be able to grow more, have higher yield. So they'll be able to make more profits and then sell more healthy food. So we took about 1,000 varieties of granules and then we grew them. They were planted, we had them on a field, and then we used this technology. So the AI system, the drones, to be able to map each of these varieties and check their performances across the board. So we deliberately exposed them to diseases and pests. There were a lot of stresses that they were exposed to, and using this technology, we were able to see how each of them fared. So we assessed and we're able to tell that, okay, this particular variety is more effective towards early blight or late blight in granules, and this one has higher yield. So this is very important work that could have a lot of ripple effects down the line. We've also been contracted by Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana to map the spread of diseases within cocoa in some parts of Ghana. So this was actually located, you had a forest and then you had cocoa trees in it. So we were able to map. The photo actually behind the text is from the field that we did this. So this was in the eastern region of Ghana. We are still in the early phase of this, but so far we've worked across 3 regions of Ghana. And we are lucky enough that recently we got funding from Lacuna Fund. So we got some 240,000 to be able to collect data and then collect data towards disease and pests, data that can then be used to improve the solutions. And so, yeah, those are some of the things that we've been engaged in. We also train young people in AI. We've done a lot of training programs where we teach people how to then use AI and data science to or develop AI and data science solutions on their own, especially towards different diseases, different sectors and industries. Yeah, so we've had people develop solutions across banking, finance, whatever data set is available, we train people and then they come up with solutions with this. We actually have a training program that is going again. So yeah, this has been successful. This is under our Rand Miller AI Institute. So these are just photos of some of the training programs that we've done so far. We've kind of like everyone, we've gone virtual this year because of COVID-19. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thank you so much, Darlington. I guess I typically start off with a question. So it's going to be a bit separated from the pure content of your presentation, but I want to know, kind of in the spirit of the knowledge application theme, you know, I've known you as doing all this stuff, but I don't know much about the origins of it all. So I guess my question is, you know, how did you first learn about artificial intelligence? Was it, you know, in school, on your own, and where was that? And then what gave you the idea to apply it in Africa, and how did that kind of unfolding happen?
So yeah, my interest in AI started with my interest in technology. So I've been passionate about technology for as long as I can remember, but I was one of the fortunate people that actually started learning how to build computer programs very, very early on. So I started learning computer programming and building softwares and apps as early as 14, 15, 16 because I had an older friend that was doing this professionally. So he introduced me to a lot of programming languages. Fast forward, as a lot of people in technology and also young people, we were all passionate the AI and robotics movies that we saw. And so I wanted to do something. So I wanted to be able to get into this. I remember in 2016, when I was 17 years, not 2017, I got some books on AI and I tried studying them. This was before the deep learning or machine learning was popular as you have them today. So most of what I was reading had to do with symbolic AI. It did not sound as cool to me as what I thought AI would be. But yeah, generally what actually made me take AI more seriously is because of mental health. So I wanted to do something in healthcare. I tried spending a lot of time identifying what was the issue in healthcare. And I could clearly experience the issue, especially considering that I lived in Ghana, I saw how bad the healthcare system was. And then I moved to Europe and saw how good the healthcare system was. So it felt very unfair to me. And I wanted to see what technology could do to address healthcare in Africa. And so I realized that AI is a key component to that. So I just literally bought books, went through a lot of courses and tutorials online to learn how to build this AI system. So it was a very self-motivated effort. Uh, and then it took my passion was I wanted to come up with a solution that was very much helpful. So I wasn't just learning AI for the sake of it. I was learning it towards developing solutions in healthcare. And it's been a long journey since then of going from someone trying to learn AI to teaching AI both in the universities and then having our own training programs to working on AI regulations and then AI research. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? I have another one loading. All right. Yeah. So my follow-up question then. I know we've discussed before kind of about different divides and inequalities with certain things between Africa and, let's say, the West. So to me, what's exciting about your work is basically, I feel like you're creating data where data didn't exist before. And, just like historically, if one country had access to guns, unfortunately, or some sort of other maybe medical technology, that was a divide. And I feel like nowadays the new money is data. When you have the more data you have, the more power you can have with your economy and everything. So I don't know, do you feel the same way that, is that part of your focus, is trying to take, farming, let's say in Ghana, where they didn't have data, and now you're creating the data to start something bigger?
Yes, to a lot of degrees, yes. So you are right. And then we are seeing this divide, or this divide is a huge problem potentially in AI, where we all know for a fact that AI is eating up a lot of sectors, is going to basically shape our future. We cannot have a situation where AI solutions are being developed only in one pocket of the world, and those solutions are basically being sent around the world, and they are then getting that data. So African data goes to the US, and South American data goes to the US. This usually will create a very unbalanced sort of situation globally. So it's very important that these solutions are quite homegrown, and that's what we've been trying to do. So we don't want a situation where someone will tell you, I mean, I've had this conversation where someone will tell you, isn't AI too advanced? So why don't you work on something simpler? You're trying to work with small scale farmers, so why don't you just do something like USSD, some kind of dial, some code, *123, something hash, and then something happens and then call it a day. Those solutions are important, but the kind of problem that we are trying to solve, those technologies are not sufficient. So we are not holding anything, but we are pulling in the big guns of AI. But then the delivery of it needs to be entirely different from the delivery in the US. So obviously, small scale farmers are not going to be the ones to be going on some fancy digital platform looking at drone data and everything. So on one hand, we work a lot with plant breeders. These are usually people that already they are producing seeds that are helping farmers, but they themselves are scientists that very much know the power of data, especially since they are engaged in research. So working with them is one way, but also the extension officers that countries like Ghana have for these farmers. So going through the extension officers like we are doing now allows us to deliver this high-end technology to even a small-scale farmer. So you might not have to structure your AI solution this way if you were in the US, because you are dealing with large-scale farms and these farmers already have some structure in place. So yeah, thinking about it from that point of view is extremely important. And it's a very long-term game that you want to ensure that AI in Ghana or in Africa doesn't lag behind, say, the US or Europe.
Cool. All right. There's no additional questions. I don't know if you wanted to kind of advertise what you're doing now, or if anybody watching this recorded in the future, if they want to engage with you or learn more about what you're doing, would that be something? Either you can put it in the chat box, or you can email it to me afterwards, and then I can also send that out. Yeah.
Sure, we could do that. Yeah, I mean, currently, so we have this training program that we are trying to run online. But that is, so we have two. One is targeted towards Ghanaians, and that one will be starting in January. We have one that kind of has a global focus. That one would mainly be somewhere next year. We don't have a fixed date yet. So if anyone is interested in studying AI, they are more than welcome to sign up for that. This is Ranmila AI Institute. So if you follow us on any of our social media platform, we will post this and then you can join the lesson. So yeah, I mean, just following us on social media is also a good way to stay updated with what we are trying to do, either with Mino Health in healthcare, Caragro in agriculture, or our training program, Ranmila. So yeah, these are all ways to stay in touch.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, yeah, this is all super interesting stuff to me.
Sorry, unless any of you, so if anyone is a farmer, sure you can reach out to Caragro. If you are in the healthcare space, feel free to reach out to Mino Health. So,
all right. Thank you so much.
Thank
all
you.
Right, then, yeah, we'll end it here. And thanks for everyone who's coming live, who came live, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.